So we're looking at what are the causes of electoral malpractice. Why do people actually engage in electoral malpractice on all that? So we know that one of the causes of electoral malpractices is lack of independence of the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission as a body is expected to be independent from any external influence, either by the executive or by the legislature or by the judiciary. It should be a neutral body. But due to the fact that the INEC officials and the electoral commissioners is actually like the INEC chairman is being appointed by the president. So sometimes the executive will influence the decisions of the electoral commissioners to actually yield or dance to their tune. So lack of complete independence of the electoral commission happens to be one of the causes of electoral malpractices in Nigeria today, particularly in Nigeria, because this body is absolutely not independent. And if you look at the way the commission is being formed, the leadership, is actually something that a president must appoint the INEC chairman. The INEC chairman must, through the National Assembly, be satisfied as qualified, and definitely he has some element of loyalty to the person that actually appoints him to that particular position. And that one is it could be electoral malpractice may be caused as a result of corruption on the part of the electoral officers who actually want to get rich at all costs. A lot of our electoral officers, particularly during election period, they know that there are a lot of money in the hands of these politicians to spend. So they're also waiting for the opportunity. They seize that opportunity to also gather their own part of the wealth. Like an example I gave to you. So a lot of them actually corrupt, and they see it as an opportunity to actually amass wealth. So corruption on the part of electoral officers is actually one of the causes of electoral malpractices in Nigeria today. We also say that another cause of electoral malpractice is that is greed on the part of politicians. A lot of politicians rig election because they want to get rich at all costs. They want to reach themselves once they win that position. So a lot of them, as a lot of fans, they've seen politics as something that is lucrative, particularly in Nigeria. We see a lot of people go into politics, seeing political office as even a career, unlike an avenue to serve the people. So a lot of them have that mentality that are going to occupy that position just for their own selfish interest. So they want to enrich themselves once they get to that particular position. So elections are rigged in Nigeria because of politicians who want to enrich themselves once they win that election. And again, election is actually rigged in Nigeria to promote an ethnic interest. A lot of ethnic groups actually wants to establish or perpetuate somebody from their own region in power. They want to ensure that somebody from their own region remains in power. So in order to realize that, they will ensure that they do everything possible to make sure that they actually rig that election, to make sure that that person remains in power. It's actually obtainable everywhere, particularly in Nigeria. You see that once somebody from the north is actually contesting for a high position, particularly the presidential position, you see that most of the people in the north will actually do everything possible to make sure that that person wins that election. They believe that once that person is actually established to have won that election, that they have their own interest secured, because a lot of people are not considering the interest of the general masses, the interest of the nation as a whole. Every region is actually parochial in their mindset. They think of their own interest, the interest of their own people, over the interest of the general public. And it's also particular to other regions in Nigeria. Another cause of electoral malpractice is poverty. Poverty is the inability of a man to provide needs. So a lot of people, as a result of their inability to provide their own basic needs, they will try to do everything possible to ensure that they just get the little crumb that actually fell from the rich people's table during the election, So once the politicians flash their money during election, they will just take it, just believing that they will be able to use that to actually take care of their family. We have a story of what happened during the last election in Ondo State. They said that when they actually trooped out to the polling units, all of a sudden, so many of them actually made up their mind to vote for a particular candidate. All of a sudden, a particular party came and started sharing 5,000 and all that. They were telling them, do you prefer soup, good soup, or that? That's in Yoruba language. They say that there was a language they used for it. Do you prefer good soup, or do you prefer voting for an? And all of a sudden, as a result of the poverty in the land, a lot of them went to the other side just to make sure that they get that particular money. So that's another reason a lot of people engage in electoral matter, particularly in masses. They are easily influenced by money, so to sell their conscience to the highest bidder. And another cause of electoral malpractice is the sit-tight mentality of our leaders. So elections are rigged because of the sit-tight mentality of our leaders. A lot of our leaders actually want to remain in power perpetually. They want to remain in power for life. Having tested that position, they don't just want to give in. They see that as a birthright. They want to remain in that position for life. And if you understand that a lot of benefits in occupying political position, so it makes it very difficult for them to lose out. You see that if you look at some of African leaders, you see there are leaders that have been in power for years, 30 years, and so, like in Zimbabwe, you see before the demise of Robert Mugabe, he was there for more than 30 years. Even President in Cameroon, you see the leader, Biya, he has been there for years on that. So this is a seat that they don't leave that position. They want to remain there. Even Nigeria, for example, if you leave all these leaders, they want to occupy. It's just that it's just that they are trying to just maneuver the system due to the fact that we have a fixed term in office. If you look at some of our leaders, like those in governorship position, once they leave that place, they'll go to the Senate. They know that the Senate, there's no fixed term as a senator. Once you win that position, you just remain there. Even in Nigeria, there are some senators or members of the House of Reps that have been there for more than 16 years, and they are still counting. They actually see that as a birthright, and they be enjoying it. So that sit-tight mentality among our leaders actually makes it easier for them to actually do everything possible to influence the electoral process to their own advantage. So we'll look at some of the consequences of electoral malpractice. What are the consequences? We are looking at the negative consequences of electoral malpractices. So we said that one of the consequences of electoral, or one of the effects, or the negative effects of electoral malpractice is that it actually at times brings a wrong candidate to power who may not be able to perform. So at times, as on the ground of irregularity, the wrong candidates may actually emerge as the winner of that election, and he or she may not be able to perform. And that one is that it may also, it may not be able to help the people to enjoy the dividends of democracy. So when someone comes through electoral malpractice, such a person may not be able to deliver. Such a person may not be able to deliver some of the benefits of democracy. There are a lot of benefits in democracy. A lot of them that will not be counting. There's freedom, there are opportunities that are actually meant for the people to actually enjoy. There's a saying that the worst form of the democracy is far better than the best of military rule. So such a person may not be able to deliver the dividends of democracy to the people. Another consequence of electoral malpractice is that it may lead to political violence, because the people will react when their mandate is stolen. Electoral malpractice actually happens. You see that at times the people that actually lost out, if they are convinced that they actually won the election, at times they will take laws into their hands, and before you know it, there'll be violence, the destruction of life and property. It has been a case in Nigeria in almost all the elections, even at this local government level. I heard of a story that of what happened in one of the local governments in Ekiti State during the last local government election, whether a councillorship position or something like that in one of the local government in Ekiti State. I heard that a lot of properties were destroyed just because I heard that the candidate of the governor actually was presented as against the candidate of the people. The people actually had a candidate. Why the governor has his own candidate? So there was a fracas at the end of the year that actually led to a lot of destruction of properties and so on. So when a lot of people react when their mandate is actually stolen, and it's particular to human beings. A little child, just like look at a little child, just give something to that little child and you try to take it back from that child. You gave it to that child. You see that child, he will try to react over that particular issue because that child thought that or believes that there has been a transfer of ownership by you giving it to him. So you taking it back is like a forceful way or depriving him of his privilege, and he will react. That is just the nature of humans, particularly when it comes to a political position. So a lot of people react when they see that their mandates are being stolen. And again, another consequence of electoral malpractice is that the government may be autocratic and in an attempt to actually perpetuate itself in power. The government may become autocratic. Autocratic government is a government by force. A good example is military rule. But you see that even in democracy, that form of autocracy is being exhibited by some of our leaders. They started arresting people. They start infringing on the rights of citizens. They start silencing the media and other groups that actually help to champion the masses. So they do that just to make sure they silence, so that they continue to remain in power and perpetrate their awesome acts. So a lot of people, a lot of government become autocratic on the ground of just to make sure that they actually position themselves in power as a result of the fact they came to illegal means. Because that shows that they will not enjoy legitimacy. They will not enjoy the support of the masses because they were not elected by the people. In order to make sure that they actually endear themselves to the people, they use a lot of unwholesome act to do that. And that one is that, and that consequence of electoral malpractice is that such government may embezzle public funds and actually loot the treasury, empty the treasury of the state. So when a government actually comes through illegal means, and then you see that they start embezzling public funds because they are not accountable to anybody. They are not actually thinking of, oh, I'm going to come back next time. I still need the support of these people, because that would have actually made them to at least do things according to the laid down rules that actually governs the society. So a lot of governments may embezzle public funds and actually loot the treasury, like what has happened in Nigeria in the past, during military era, during some democratic dispensation in Nigeria. You see a lot of people that actually, even presently, people are still embezzling a public fund, because not that they were not elected, but it has become norm today. And again, it actually leads to military intervening in the politics of a particular nation, because they actually believe that the politicians are corrupt, and they seize that single opportunity to actually take over power, like what had happened in Nigeria subsequently, and we are praying that that should not happen again in this country. So these are some of the things that we need to actually know about electoral malpractices in the country. Probably in subsequent lesson, we'll be able to look at how to actually prevent electoral malpractices in Nigeria. So I think you should be able to do justice to this lesson. So I want you to be able to know that electoral malpractice is actually an evil that actually does no harm to any nation. So it must be, everyone must ensure that we eliminate it to its barest minimum in Nigeria. Thank you, and God bless you. See you in next lesson.